Hello there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm Ryan in Singapore. Welcome to our mindfulness practice. Chris says silence is golden. Wow, you're segueing me into our topic here even before we get going. We will be talking about that shortly. That's today's topic. Today's topic's about silence. It's Silence is applicable for me right now because tomorrow I leave for Thailand and I'm going to spend 10 days. So there's a kind of a beginning of the retreat and the end, but in that 10-day span, maybe a little bit more than 10 days, we, meaning me and the other participants, will be in silence so that we cannot speak for those 10 days. And I think sometimes people ask, well, why silence? What's the point? And why stillness? Why silence? Why stillness? Why do I need to sit still when I'm meditating? I think these are good questions. In fact, I was having a conversation yesterday about meditation or just retreats in general. And I remember when I was first working for the retreat company that I worked for in Hong Kong, that I attended a yoga retreat that wasn't silent. And I just remember thinking, because I'm used to silent retreats, kind of going, well, this isn't what I'm expecting at all. This isn't this isn't a retreat, because that silence aspect to me, when we're on some kind of retreat to, well, I suppose that's the question. What are we on retreat to do? And I find silence is so critical to the retreat process. And it can be useful to experiment with in your daily life as well. So why silence? What's the reason behind it? And I think the first thing to address is, because I practice in silence and in stillness, does that mean I'm to be more silent and more still in my daily life? And the answer to that is no. It isn't about bringing silence and stillness to daily life necessarily. It does. If something uncomfortable happens, something that you don't agree with, does our practice make it so that we stay silent? And I think that's the important thing to address, because the answer is absolutely not. Being silent in practice doesn't mean that we shut up in daily life when something bad or challenging is happening. The reason that we practice in silence and in stillness is because moving, speaking are all voluntary responses, and movement is a form of action. And before we take any action, before we speak, there's always something happening here. There's always some mental object or mental something that's coming up before the spoken word or before the action. And so this is one of the things that practice helps us to see. So we practice in silence, we practice in stillness, so that we can observe the mind. And we can see, because we know that we're being silent, we know that we're not going to speak, we can begin to see those urges to speak as they're coming up. And then we catch ourselves, because we go, oh, right, I'm not supposed to speak. And every once in a while, even in silent retreat, maybe a word or two slips out. I do remember some kind of automatic word slipping out once in my first silent retreat, and then looking around to see if anybody was around to hear it. Then that's interesting as well. So this idea is, can I have this space of silence to really observe all of my thoughts and to observe them more clearly? What is it that's coming before that urge to speak, before that urge to take action, before that urge to move? So if we find something uncomfortable in our physical posture, How quickly is it that we want to move, and what's causing that? Is it possible instead to sit with that? And so that's the idea, is that examination of the possibility. So it doesn't mean that we need to stay quiet or stay still completely in daily life. Don't take any action, don't say anything. It's much more about observing the mind so that when it is time to act or time to speak, that we can do so with a much greater degree of wisdom. So we can really understand and pick apart our thoughts in that moment. Like, why is this urge to speak here? Is this urge to speak related to the anger that I'm having? Is it a reaction to an emotional response or to an emotional stimulus? Or is there something more behind this? Am I wanting to speak because I feel I need to justify myself or justify my ego? Is there something about my identity that is being challenged by whatever thing that it is that I want to speak? We all want to be loved. We all want to be important. We all want to be seen as competent. And sometimes does what's going on around me affect that and make me want to speak so that I look smart, or that I'm feel safe or feel loved, or and seeing what part of that is me. And I think that's really interesting to examine as well, because a lot of this is a lot of the things that we say aren't really for the other person at all, and we find that actually the reason that I'm speaking is I'm trying to convince myself that my words are true. And that's a really powerful revelation, when we start to realize that the words that are coming out of our mouths aren't really for the other person at all, and that they're actually for ourselves. And then as we sit in silence and we see these reactions coming up, and that's the purpose of meditation, right? Is to see those reaction, to see the thoughts that are coming up, to see the reactions that we want to do with this kind of crystal clear clarity, and to see it non-judgmentally, and to see it, this is what's going on for me right now. This is the reaction that I want. And I think non-judgmental awareness is really key in this as well, because you'll see that this stuff bubbles up out of the mind without our control. It just shows up. Here it is. Here's this thought. Wow, this thought is here. What do I do with it, if anything at all? And can I be aware that this thought is here? Can I understand what lies behind it? And then choose. And I think that's the nice thing about meditation and silent retreats, is there's no need to choose. There's no need to choose to speak or to act, because there's none of that's there, right? We don't interact with other participants with words, or and I guess sometimes you can't help but like body language coming through. I mean, I know in these retreats we're encouraged to a lot of times not to make eye contact with other participants, so we can drop more fully into our own experience, because for sure there can be some kind of interaction. And I mean, as I reflect back on my retreats, I think without exception there is someone else, some other participant on the retreat, that even though they're silent, even though they're doing their best to control their actions or whatever, that this person gets under my skin, and I go, this is her intent, right? And then I project the intent of the other person. I go, they're trying to make me angry. They're trying to see if they can do blah, blah, blah. And then this whole story comes out about this stranger that I've never even met, and what their intent is behind all of their actions, which I think is also extremely valuable learning. Because most of the time, the intent that you create for another person is in your head. And it's you that imagines the intent of the other person. Because as well, when the retreat's over and I have a moment to talk to these people, I start to question my own sanity, going, well, this is actually a really lovely person. Like, what made me think that they, wanted to interrupt my practice, or they were simply being inconsiderate? Maybe that's maybe it as well. And in these retreats, there's people from all over the world. I think there's probably a really good chance the majority of the retreat participants, as I go in this week, will be Russian. So just to know as well that Russian manners are different from American or Singaporean manners. And so to try to hold that as well, and to remind myself that whatever's happening there's probably whatever intent is happening is coming from me and isn't really coming from the other person. Yes, I mean, then Rachel, this is correct. What I'm trying to say is, when we speak, we're trying to convince ourselves that we're right and not the other person. Because a lot of times our own belief, if we are wrong, if the thing that we feel so passionate and we're arguing so fiercely about is wrong, well, what does that mean for my entire belief system? And maybe my belief system starts to break down if what I think is true isn't in fact true. And yeah, thanks, Angus. It is. It's it's ego, but it's identity protection, I think, is one of the big things that's going on here. Is that, again, if we find out that what this thing that we believe so passionately isn't true, what does that mean for our entire belief system? Sometimes that unravels everything. And I think that that's always a good thing to explore. I think we should always take very close look at our beliefs and constantly be reevaluating our beliefs instead of making them so anchored so firmly. Because this is how we learn, this is how we grow, is by learning, by looking again, reevaluating, right? I mean, this is where where does racism come from, right? Mostly it's about a flawed belief system, right? A person has a particular belief, and a lot of things actually feed into that. And then if we say, well, wait a minute, this one thing is wrong, then my whole belief system starts to break apart. All right, let's get into our practice. So get comfortable. So today's practice is going to be practicing in silence. So find yourself in your comfortable posture, sitting up straight and tall, crown of the head towards the ceiling, chin parallel to the floor, shoulders relaxed. Seeing if you can relax your muscles but still be awake and alert. Bring your back away from the backrest if you're sitting on a chair, if that's possible and comfortable for you. Allow your eyes to close if you like, or if you prefer, have a soft gaze about 45 degrees downwards. And then start to notice that you are breathing. See where the breath is most apparent. Maybe it's at the belly. Maybe it's at the chest. Maybe it's at the nostrils. And once you've found your breath, concentrate your attention there. See if you can pay attention to every single breath, the inhalation and the exhalation. And each time you find yourself wandering, your mind wandering away, going into the future, going into the past, daydreaming, acknowledging that it's happened, and then gently bringing the mind back to observing the breath. In and out. In and out. Okay. We'll close our practice now with 3 rings of the bell. So feel free to transition out of your practice in any way you like, maybe stretching out, wiggling around, moving your fingers and toes. So, how'd it go today? What was this time in silence like? And did you find that it was easier? Was it more peaceful than practice that's led? Or was it more challenging? Did you find your mind was wandering a lot? It was harder to keep your mind on your breath? What was it like? Tell us in the chat. Thanks, Angus. Thanks, Emma. Yes, and Dirk's wisdom here was when you are silent, you are listening with your heart. Rachel shares, my mind was all over the place. Thanks for sharing, Rachel. And honestly, this is super common. And I'm prepared. I try to go into my retreat with no expectations, but I'm used to days 1 through 3 of me constantly thinking about stuff, so that I'm back into this life. I'm back into my Singapore life with all the things that I do every day, and I'm paying attention to that stuff. And then after about 3 days, then that finally starts to subside, and I don't have as much chatter, and I'm able to see my mental processes a lot more clearly. So if you were like Rachel and today your mind was all over the place, that's okay. That's normal. That's natural, and you can, even without going on retreat, start to see how your mental processes work. So keep it up, keep practicing, and you're bound to be successful. Angus says, my mind wandering off and on, but I now accept it's a part of the meditation. Thanks so much for sharing. Jean says, my mind was active. Angus says, we are all humans and having a human experience. I'll come back to the breath, which is my superpower, because the breath, what's so great about the breath? It's happening in the present. The breath is always here. Like, we never stop breathing. Well, until that one final day that we do stop breathing. But in the meantime, while we're alive, we're breathing. It's something that we can pay attention to. 2, the breath is a great indicator of the emotional state. So what's going on my mind can stoke my emotional state. Does something challenging come up? I can feel my breath increase in pace. Or maybe everything's calm and peaceful, and then the breath slows down. And so we can use the information that the breath is giving us to know more about emotional state, our knowledge and understanding of our emotional state. Like, this is what Ryan does when he's angry, right? This is how Ryan tends to behave and think when he's sad. Like that knowledge can help have more wisdom, because we can see that objectively and go, this is what I tend to be like, and to be able to manage that because we're aware of it. All right. Thank you, everybody. I'll be back in a couple weeks. So it's been a pleasure doing this last series on open awareness. I will have, of course, some learnings from retreat, I'm sure, and I look forward to sharing some of that with you when I get back. So Have a lovely day or evening wherever you are going forward. And let's see. Yes, I should say to support, ways you can support me and help make it so that I can keep coming back on Insight Timer. One, donations. You can, please donate if you found this practice was useful. Two, listen to my tracks. I have a lot. I don't know, 20 or so tracks on Insight Timer. Like 3 of those are premium tracks. So if you're a Plus member, listen to my premium tracks, please. Join Ryan's Daily Mindfulness Circle. Get involved in the chat there. Help to arrange meditations and things. We can start to add you as an admin on there to help out if you feel so inclined. And last but far from least, if you were on today's session and you found it interesting or useful, please follow me on Insight Timer. As the more followers I have, the more I can get featured, the more I can get exposed, and then the easier it is for me to sustain this teaching. Thank you, Rachel, for your donation. All right, let us close practice the way that we close practice, which is with well wishes. May I be happy and peaceful. May everyone watching, listening, wherever you are, I wish you all happiness and peace. May all human beings, near or far, doing our best, may we all be happy and peaceful. Thanks, everyone. All right. Take care. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.